الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. This majlis was originally meant for Maulana Hujjatul Islam Sayyid Muhammad, and I had requested him to excuse me tonight because of several reasons. One of them being my old age, my failing health, but at the same time I have a feeling that I will be able to do some justice to the subject tonight, especially taking into consideration the fact that there is a marriage. I'm just waiting for the groom to arrive so that I can part with some message also. A message from an old man who will give the benefit of his own experience to an upcoming young man who is entering the field of new life for the first time. As Ghalib said, "Ay taza waridane bisate hawaye dil." Coming for the first time, entering new field, a new field which is connected with the emotions and with the passions of life. But before that, we are here to remember our ninth Imam, Imam al-Jawad Muhammad at-Taqi salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, who was born in Medina in 195 Hijrah. There are two riwayat for his birthday. One riwayat is of 19th of Ramadan and the other riwayat is of 10th of Rajab. But the riwayah of 10th of Rajab is supported by Ziyarah-e-Nahiya. In Ziyarah-e-Nahiya, Imam alayhi salam says about this month, Allahumma inni as'aluka bihaqqi mawludain fi hadha ash-shahr. And he names one of them as Muhammad ibn Ali al-Jawad salamullah alayhi. The main thing that I would like to say about Imam alayhi salam is, and then I will see if I can continue, is that as the development took place and the kingdom of Abbasid dynasty reached its zenith in the day of Harun and Mamun, suddenly there was a downward trend. What happened in the days of Mamun and Harun is the climax of Banu Abbas. So many books were translated from Greek and Latin into Arabic language. Mamun Rashid established what is called Darul Hikmah, House of Wisdom. But together with the promotion of sciences, so much of liberalism entered into Islam. and the kings who ruled were least conscious of their religious duties. And by the time that our ninth Imam alayhi salam came into the Imamah, when he was only 9 years old, there was now a period of decline. And from then onwards, for 50 years, or rather, to be exact, 54 years, the kingdom of Abbasid was now in doldrums. It was actually influenced by the Turkish soldiers. Therefore, you find some kings for 4 days, some for 4 hours, and some for 4 years. It was ruled actually by the Turks. And the king was at the mercy of his general, whatever he decided. If he liked him, he kept him. If he did not like him, he dethroned him, dislodged him. It was in this era that the capital of Abbasid Empire was moved from Baghdad to Samarra. You see? And it was in this particular era when the African slaves who lived in Baghdad and in Iraq, they revolted against the Abbasid kingdom, and that is called the War of Zunuj. Zunuj comes from Zanj. Zanj means black slaves, from which comes Zanjibar. Zanj and Zunuj. Zunuj revolted against the kingdom, but they revolted against the Abbasid kingdom in favor of Alawiyin, in favor of Ali ibn Abi Talib and his Al. So, on the political scene, there was instability. But there was another scene, and that was the nearness of the era of Ghaiba. Ninth Imam lived for 25 years only. And after him, our 10th Imam lived for 41 years only. And our 11th Imam lived for 28 years only. And they all overlap. So in total, the Ghaiba, the era of Ghaibat of Imam Zaman Ajrallahu Farajahu Sharif was drawing closer and closer. And it was here that the ulama who lived then as contemporaries of our Aimma, most of whom we know as the 4 Nawab of Aimma, or even to some extent the author of Usul Kafi, Muhammad ibn Yaqub al-Kulaini, they lived then. Now, Fadl bin Shahdan and others who have written books, they were contemporaries of Imam alayhi salam. Imam alayhi salam, the Aimma alayhi salam, from 9th onwards, they tried level best to see, and that was the work they did, that the Shia resources were all centralized and they were all promulgated together. And this is why today it is easy for an a'lam or a marja to have the resources all at one place, thanks to our 9th Imam, 10th Imam, and 11th Imam alayhi salam. And I will give an example. And I have given an example later than those days. For example, today, when we want to refer to any mujtahid's book of law, we say, bring Tawzihul Masail, and you'll find all the details. In earlier days, we used to say, bring Al-Urwatul Wuthqa. You bring Al-Urwa, and you find all the ramification of laws. There is a principle, but below the principle, there are laws and sub-laws, and there are so many ramifications. Laws according to the situations as they arise, when Quran-e-Majid and Hadith will be applied. This, most of the people who cannot appreciate is that it is not only the intention of going into unnecessary details. The intention was to rectify and remedy multiple situations in a human life. A mas'ala which you may never confronted in your life may be the basic question of another person's life, and he has to find a solution. These are called ramifications. And in this ramification, there was a need for a training. You see, it's very easy to say this is the law, but it's difficult for a mujtahid, after having known the law, to go into details. Let us take an example. It might sound a bit hard going, but I think sometimes it's not. A heavy going majlis is also of some use, where people are called upon to ponder. Because it hasn't got to be only a pastime. It has got to be a place where we learn something. Well, there was a Sahaba of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had a small house, a hut. And according to those days where there was nothing like planning or anything, behind that hut, there was a small land. And that land belonged to another Sahaba. And there was no access to that land except through the hut. Now that land belongs to somebody else, this hut belongs to somebody else, and the access is only one. So that house owner tells another Sahaba that you find another way behind and reach your land, because here I have got my wife, my daughters, and you can't just enter my house like that without knocking, without seeking the permission. And he said, I will, because this is my way. Well, he told him, all right, if you wish to, then please knock the door and seek permission. He said, no, you're going to keep the door open always, because it is my access. So this man comes to our Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, am I unreasonable? I am not disallowing him access. I am telling him either he goes to another road, or at least he knocks the door and seeks permission, because I have got ladies at home, and they would like to do parda because he has to go. He refused. He said, I have to keep the door open at all times. So the Prophet summoned him, the other fellow, and said, is this story as the way it has been related, is it right? He said, yes. He said, then I am telling you as a prophet, find another road. He said, Ya Rasulullah, not possible. We have people and people in this world, my friend. It takes all sorts to make a society. And then the Prophet said, then fine, you knock at the door, and as we say in Kiswahili, hodi. Just knock at the door and say, Ya Allah. And the women of the house will give you the way to. He said, I'm not bound to it, it's my road. He has got to keep that door open all the time. Ya Rasulullah. And the Prophet said, then sell this plot to me. Sell this plot to me and ask for the price, and I'm going to give you the price. He said, I don't want to sell either. When this is, of course, faqih is waiting here, he knows he's sitting here. This is one of the principles of fiqh, la dharar wa la dharar fil Islam. The Prophet said, in this case, burn the farm, the piece of land which had trees and all. The Prophet said, fell the trees and burn the farm. And he was asked, the Prophet said, because la dharar wa la dharar fil Islam, in Islam it is not permissible to seek deliberate harm for the other or to cause the harm. I have given him all the options, he has refused, now his land must be destroyed. Now, based on this principle, ask the fuqaha, how many masail come up that our Ayatullah Sistani, for example, has written 2 volumes on this, and Ayatullah Al-Khoyi wrote 1 volume on this, just to explain when this is applicable. Because you just can't say, oh, the Prophet said this, therefore tomorrow go on destroying people's properties. Right? The same thing applies when we hear the famous event that in the court of Abbasid Empire, in the presence of Yahya ibn Aktham, that is Mamun Rashid, Imam Muhammad at-Taqi salawatullah wasalam alayhi is brought. Imam Muhammad at-Taqi alayhi salam was young, and remember his complexion was dark. Many people say Imam Dhoro ho joiye. That sort of thing, Dhoro Karo, is not in our. He had a dark complexion. Because many Sayyids who are dark, people ask me, how come a chokro Paigambar no kem karo thiyo? You see, they ask me those things, but they don't understand that to be white or dark is not the problem. The problem is what you are. And they used to call him Aswad. In Tafsir al-Burhan, you will see that when Mamun wanted to decide as to how much of the hand should be cut off, when somebody steals and it has got to be applied, the law, somebody said from the elbow, somebody said from the wrist, and so on. Imam Muhammad at-Taqi was sitting there, and some said, وَمَا يَقُولُ هَذَا الْأَسْوَدِ, and what does this black man say? And Imam alayhi salam said, you cannot cut more than fingers. And they said, but Quran says, فَقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا. Imam alayhi salam said, yes, but Quran says, وَإِنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ, the places of Sajda are for God, they can't be cut off. So now Imam alayhi salam was introduced. Yahya ibn Aktham, the judge of all judges, called Qadiyul Qudat, he was sitting there, and Mamun says, this is an Imam from Ahlul Bayt. They looked at him, a young boy, and Yahya ibn Aktham started with the first question, and I'm finishing there. I cannot go beyond this. He asked, and you know this, we have heard this several times. He said, Yabna Rasulillah, what is the kafara? What is the expiation for one who hunts, goes hunting, while also wearing ihram? This is a masala. As we all know, we cannot go hunting when we are in ihram. But suppose somebody went hunting. He said, Ya Abdul Rasulullah, what is the kafara for one who in the status of ihram, state of ihram, goes hunting? Now we have heard this, I'm just repeating it, but I'm just trying to show what is behind it. Imam alayhi salam said, tell me first, did he do it for the first time or was he repeating? Was it Umrah, Mufrada or Tamattu'? Is he a slave or a free man? Was it daytime or nighttime? Did he do deliberately or by error? Was it a small animal or a big animal? 22 ramifications Imam brought in. And the man, the questioner himself, did not know the answer. He said, Abdul Rasulullah, are there so many situations? Imam said, every situation has an answer. And now I'm giving you the answer. That this is the kafara which differs from it. It is from here that the mujtahideen who are trained to give that sort of ramification and go into laws and understand. In the day of ghaibah, when the fatwa is given, this is how our mujtahideen were trained to understand each and every situation. So they're prepared. By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are living in an age where we are in ghaibah. But the preparation for ghaibah has been complete. And the mujtahideen have all the sources. What happens? And that happens everywhere. Allama Rashid Turabi used to say, may Allah bless his soul and grant him a chosen place in Jannah. Allama Rashid Turabi used to say that I don't understand why this Pakistan government at every road has got one traffic warden to guide the road and to... Why don't they keep a book of law just there? Book of Pakistan government's law related to traffic. At every stand, they keep one book, that's all. And whoever wants to come and refer, can I go right, can I go left? But there is a warden here and there, and why are they spending so much money? Somebody said, Allama, the book is not complete. The book is complete, but the book is not enough. A guide is required. Allama Rashid Turabi gave a very subtle hint, didn't say anything more than this. Of course, he proved to the world that Hasbuda Kitabullah is not enough. You require someone to explain. Right? And A'immah Salamullah alayhim ajma'in explained. Now when the law comes, and over 2000, now nearly for 1500 years, we Shias have lost so much in the form of deliberate arson. Even today, Maulana is my witness, and all learned people here who know, even today, our books are being systematically sold off for destruction. Just find a Shia book. Sheikh Tusi alayhi Rahmah, the founder of the school of Najaf, had his library burnt down twice. So many books were lost. Today, Sheikh Saduq alayhi Rahmah's Madinatul Ilm is not found anywhere. We know that he wrote Madinatul Ilm, but the book is not to be found anywhere. Haqa'iq al-Tanzil of Sayyid Murtada is not to be found except 5th volume. So the books have been lost in fire, thrown into wells, into the sea. In spite of all that, the legacy and heritage that we have still guides us. But at times, a mujtahid and a marja has got to think. The difference what we haven't been able to understand is that if I want this chair, I don't mean this chair is the Prophet's chair. What I mean this chair is this chair, the world's biggest problem, which is called kursi. You see, when I fight for what is called kursi, and somebody else also fights for it, it is for some other aim and object. If it is political kursi, then everybody has got his own axe to grind there. But if it is riyasat or marja'iyat, there is no competition. What we don't understand is that there is no competition. Sistani does not say that you must not go into taqlid of Al-Khoy, or Al-Khoy should not say that we don't go to taqlid of Al-Hakim. I was with Al-Khoy at 7 o'clock in the morning in Najaf Ashraf, and he said, Baba, befahm. Oh, my brother, try to understand. I am a muqallad, that means there are people who do my taqleed, and there are people who do taqleed of Al-Hakim, but Hakim is marja', not I. If anything happens to Islamic world, Hakim will rule first, we will follow next. So there is no competition there. What is there is you choose a mujtahid so that your a'mal inshallah are saved. Either you become a mujtahid. This is the beauty of fiqh, is that the first option is become mujtahid. You say time nahi. खोजे जो कम हुए, आसान जो कम तो खुदा सा कहलाए हैं. पैसा कमाने ले. We will earn, and if you want, we will pay you. We are good pay masters, and the one who abuses us most receives better. This is our history. That we pay most to the one who abuses us most. You see. But we were given the first option. Become a mujtahid. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have said, become muqallid, then you would have said, Ya Allah, you have given us no chance. And then he said, if you cannot become a muhtat, that means act on precaution. Now, acting on precaution requires knowledge. I have no time for that. So the third thing, to save my a'mal, not to enslave, as people are trying to tell us. Not to enslave, to save my a'mal. The only thing common sense will tell you is to follow the expert. But when he sits, a mujtahid, he has got so many things to take into consideration because of the lapse of time, the loss of so many books and contexts. Some of the books existed then, they don't exist today. Some of the sources are not existent. Some of the references are not even available. A mujtahid, not for himself, not for the sake of enforcing his opinion, no. For the sake of saving you, is giving an opinion that this is my fatwa, so that tomorrow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may not catch hold of him and say, you being a mujtahid, thousands of people followed you and you did not work hard enough to find out what was the correct way. So there is a difference, my friend. There is an effort to enforce my opinion. That is something else. And to say that I am doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that tomorrow I may be able to show him my face and say, Ya Allah, it was in this ayah and in this hadith. I did my best to find out. This was the inference I made, and this is the fatwa I gave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive him. This is the reason why the Prophet said, a mujtahid who makes all the efforts, arrives at a wrong decision, will get one reward. Arrives at a right decision, will get double reward. But there must be an effort. Right? So a person who is not a mujtahid, and he accepts himself to be called a mujtahid, that fellow is a mal'oon. And the fellow who is a mujtahid, but refuses to be recognized as a mujtahid and hides his ilm, that fellow is also a mal'oon. When you have ilm and you have ijtihad and people can follow you, tell them. When you don't have, say so, that I am not a mujtahid. Because in these days, somebody was writing Ariza to Imam Zamana in Lucknow years ago. He sat down and he said, Mere Imam, aapko kin alqab se yaad karun? What titles should I write to you? वो जितने अलकाब थे वो तो उलमा ले गए. Because there was a time when I wrote Hujjatul Islam to you, now it has gone. Ayatullah also has gone. Now what should I write? I don't know. It has become easy. No. We have to understand that ijtihad is something in which Allama Hilli, I read in his life that Allama Hilli, his father was a mujtahid, and his wife was also mujtahid, and his sister was also mujtahid, and so was his mother, and so was his son, Fakhrul Muhaqqiqeen, and his son-in-law, and his nephew, all mujtahideen. As they say in Farsi, in khana hama aftab ast. When he was young and he became a mujtahid at the age of 12, and people say, Mullah Sahib, it is not possible. I say, yes, it is not possible for Allama Hilli to become mujtahid at the age of 12. It is possible for Mozart to compose music at the age of 4. Because that is written in English. What is written in English is gospel truth. What is written in Arabic and Farsi is likhanta. He was a mujtahid. And in his life I have read, and Maulana has read, and all ulama here have read, that because he was still not baligh, After Salat, he used to come out and just arrange the shoes of the Musalli as a khidmah, as a service. Arrange them pair together. A young boy. Once, his father, having said mas'ala, a fiqh mas'ala, he said, that was his fatwa, not Ayatollah Sistani's, not Ayatollah Khui's. I don't want you to understand that it applies today. Don't spend sleepless nights over this. It was his fatwa that whoever comes to pray in mosque or anywhere before time, and he does wudu, his wudu must be qurbatan ilallah, not baniyat wajib, because namaz time has not entered. Wuzu for namaz will become wajib when namaz time has entered. Right? If he does, his namaz is batil. An old man of about 60, 65 years of age stood up and said, Agha, I have been coming here for the last 30 years before namaz time. And I am always doing with the niyat of Dhuhr Asr before time, but I do namaz Dhuhr Asr. Agha said, then you have got to repeat for 30 years. That was a bombshell for him, because people don't repeat for one day. 30 years. So he started weeping. Mu'min was, he started crying. And he came out with eyes, with tears rolling from his eyes, and Allama Hilli was 12. He said, Uncle, what happened? Have you quarreled inside? He said, no, your father has made my life, he's ruined my life. I will have to come now here 2 hours earlier to finish my qada. He said, which qada? He said, I asked him. He said, his fatwa is this. Allama Hilli said, yes, according to his fatwa, you will give only 1 day's qada. That's all. He said, how? He said, let's go together. He took him back to his father and said, Father, that was your fatwa. He said, yes. This man came from the first day, for the first day, he prayed Dhuhr Asr, he did wudu Dhuhr Asr Niyya without time having entered. Therefore, on that day, according to your fatwa, his namaz was batil. But when he came second day, yesterday's Dhuhr Asr Qadha was upon him. Therefore, from second day onwards, till today, his namaz is sahih, according to your own fatwa. His father looked at him and said, Sahih, that has escaped my mind. This is a mujtahid who goes into details. And in some details, he may tell you that, Baba, if you read Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar once, in third rakat is enough. But it is better if you read 3 times. But one is enough. Now, Khojabai. Mulla Sahib, now it's internet world. You see, this is internet world. We are just in it. Internet, we are in it. We can't get out of it. But this is Agha's mas'ala. Once is enough. 3 times? What about 5 times? Are Baba. It's a community which loves confusion. Jalebi. You see, there is a gubiti which is straight. There is jalebi which goes round and round. It's a community which loves confusion and feasts on confusion and attributes confusion to mujtahid. Well, the mujtahid has told you once is enough. Say once, Allahu Akbar, go to ruku. Chand. Well, Agha, after what will Agha tell you? Agha will tell you what is in Quran. وَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْهُ. Whoever sees or witnesses the month may start fasting. And the Prophet said, Sumu lirru'ya wafturu lirru'ya. When you see the moon, start fasting. When you see the moon, stop fasting. Huh? Have you seen the moon? No, I have not seen. Is it proved to you? No. But somebody in the gully of Kum, Arab Baba, start fasting, that's all. Or Eid. But do not create confusion. The confusion is our creation. not Shariat's. The ulama and mujtahideen are very straightforward in their fatwa. You follow the fatwa, but you go into so much of confusion, and then everything goes on to Ayatullah, whoever is our Ayatullah. We love confusion. We love thinking in terms of all sorts of possible problems that our minds can create. There is no need for it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this night of barakah for all of us. Save us from all calamities, adversities of this life and hereinafter. And we may get an opportunity of going to Imam al-Jawad, inshaAllah ta'ala, in Kadhumain. All of us, those who have been may go again and again. Those who have not been, inshaAllah, will be blessed to go. For it is called Babul Murad. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far and Imam Jawad, both are lying together. Imam Musa ibn Ja'far is Babul Hawaij, and Imam Muhammad Taqi is Babul Murad, where anything that you ask from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is granted. So this is the night. And now the groom has arrived. So, just to tell him few words, not to discourage him. For this is the night when he is Badshah. But he has to understand one thing, my friend, that now new life has begun. Har shab shabe barat neest. Every night is not night of Pandarvi Shaban Kushali. वो हर शब हब रोज ईद neest. So there will be a time, my son, when you will come home with a hung face because somebody else's check has bounced, because a particular transaction has failed, and you are thrown off element. When you come home, and it is for your wife then to smile and receive you. For the Prophet said, when the wife stands at the door to receive her husband with a smiling face, she is a mujahid. She has the thawab of a mujahid. And someday you come home and see your wife is not in her color because the neighborhood has been a problem, the children have been a problem, the food cooked has burnt out and so on. I'm telling you from experience. And she is not in her mood, and you say, then that is not a marriage, that is tug of war. You have got to keep quiet. Allow some time till the dust settles, my friend, and then ask slowly, Kurovo. And she will tell you that there was a problem. But otherwise, life goes on and on. There has not been any life in no home where voices have not been raised. Ask all these people. They will not say what I say. All these with hoary hair here. Ask them, has there been a day in life? There have been phases where father and mother, they fight over the children of their own children. Tu ane bagadi se, tu bagadi se. Same blood. But doesn't mean. The beauty is that, and remember this, the genius of married life is in knowing what to ignore and how much to ignore. That is it. How much to ignore, what to ignore. And inshallah. And remember, and this nobody knows, I'm telling you. All of us lack in this, but you please try to experiment. We don't know how to pay compliments at all, do we? I don't know how many of you will ever tell the wife, "Aaj ek khao nu pakkayu che khuda na fazal thi bahut saru pakka." Do we tell? No. We just eat and go away. But when we come from outside, we say, "Oh, Ibrahim bhai ne kare khaoge to so saag banayu." Now that lady thinks that Ibrahim bhai ne saag mein so patthar kavarai. You appreciate the food which you have eaten outside and tell your wife that I have eaten a good dish. She has been cooking for you for the last 40 years. Huh? Not a single day of compliment. When she comes and prepares herself for Kushali, and she has put on her the best of her sari, learn to tell her कि आज ये तू सुंदर लगे थी. I'm telling you from the mimbar, Baba. Your own wife, not somebody else's. कि भाई, you really look nice, and your wife looks at you and says, "MashaAllah, आज ये तमें पाशा वरराजा जेवा लागू छो." All this does not make any difference. It makes. You see, but most of our life goes on taking things for granted. When we learn these smaller things in life, then it becomes life. And in Islam, my son Abbas, remember this. For your father is just like my son, so you are my grandson. He grew up before me. In Islam, love does not wane, does not wear off with marriage. For example, you are one today, inshallah from tonight will be two. And as days gone by, Allah gives you children, you'll be 3 and then 4. And your children after, inshallah, 20 years will grow up and I will come here for nikah, inshallah. And Allah will grant them children. So one day, with a hindsight, you will look at your family. How it has grown up. Flowers and flowers and flowers. Grandsons and granddaughters from both sides, paternal and maternal. This is your garden. Now, who is responsible for that garden? Your wife, who has now become a grandmother, and yourself. So your love for your wife should increase, for she has been with you to produce all this today. But there are 2 types of love. There is one which is called infatuation, my friend. And there is one which is love. For any young man who hasn't married, you put anyone who has never been into a garden, he sees roses, he sees Yasmin, he likes everything. Huh? Every flower captivates him, but he doesn't know which one to adopt. So a person who hasn't married is infatuated with every girl that he meets. But when you have decided to marry, there starts the love. And that love goes on and increases till there comes a time when the Prophet said, "Wal jannatu tahta aqdamil ummahat," that the mother has come now to become a mother, therefore Jannat is under her feet. So may Allah bless you, inshallah, and make this marriage for you and your parents, for both sides, Mubarak, inshallah, that you may live happily together for many, many years to come. And may Allah grant you the wisdom of not practicing birth control, so that you may have a generation which will say, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, wa ashhadu anna Amir al-Mu'mineen Aliyan Waliyullah." Wassalamu alaikum.